What is NAVA, and is it something you need to be signing up for?
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOPRENEUR. Welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
You have a great website, right? Well, make sure you host it at some place that doesn't suck. Hey, it's Brad Newman, fellow VO Pro for 28 years and owner of UpperLevelHosting.com. People ask why us, and that's simple. We make it easy, respect your time, save you money, and just make all the magic happen. You don't need to know all the tech stuff when it comes to hosting your website. We got you. Ask around. Tens of thousands of client interactions later, and 6 years of amazing customer service, and not a single negative complaint, ever. UpperLevelHosting.com.
The VOPRENEUR podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOPRENEUR.
Hello and welcome to the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. I'm Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOpreneur, and you know what goes on here. I'm ready to give you some more actionable, practical advice that you can use to grow your voiceover business. Can you do me one quick favor before we get started, though? Would you take a moment to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy the Everyday VOpreneur podcast? It would really help a lot of other people to be able to find out about the show. So one of the things that I like to do here is shine a light on people, services, products, brands, organizations that I think are worth knowing more about. Things that can potentially help you to grow your voiceover business. Now, in the last couple of weeks, you've probably seen a lot of posts on social media about something called NAVA. And you've probably been wondering, what is NAVA? It's the National Association of Voice Actors. Great. But what does that mean? By the time you get to the end of this episode, you are going to have a much better understanding of what NAVA is all about and why you probably should be thinking about signing up for it. Working as a voice actor can sometimes feel like a lonely and isolating job, and working as a solopreneur also comes with challenges like a lack of options for healthcare and advocacy. In the past, organizations such as World Voices have been created to try to fill some of those voids, but others have still remained. Until now. The National Association of Voice Actors is an exciting new organization for our industry, and to tell us all about it is the founder and president. Welcome to the show, Tim Friedlander.
Hello. Good to be here.
So let's start with the origin story. How did NAVA come to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. It grew out of a few different things. The main purpose of NAVA grew out of the Brad Venable Scholarship and the Brad Venable Fund, that community fund that I've been running for a few years prior to Brad's loss. We had a community fund in our various Facebook groups and community groups here in Los Angeles, and after Brad's passing, we renamed it as the Brad Venable Fund. Karen Gilfrey runs a similar fund in her Voice Actors in NYC group, and for the last 2.5 or 3 years, all of these funds have gone through our personal accounts. So we kind of started by exploring a 501c3 and put together a nonprofit, and that was how this originally started. Once we had the nonprofit, we realized that we actually could provide a lot of other resources. Right. And we started looking into providing, some of the business education, some of the advocacy, some of the other things we've been doing on our Facebook pages. We thought we could then provide on a larger scale. Once we got into that, we realized then that there actually was a possibility of providing a national group healthcare plan for voice actors. And once we had all of that in place, this kind of naturally grew into what we have now as NAVA.
I think the healthcare is probably the one that a lot of people are most excited about, although there's a lot more to NAVA, and I want to get to some of that stuff. But what makes NAVA different from an organization like a World Voices, for example, that's supposed to be an industry organization or an industry association? What is your value proposition that's different?
Well, I'm a member, was a member of WOVO when it first came out. I'm a good friend with Dan and Dave and a lot of members of that. And we have actually discussed NAVA with WOVO. NAVA and WOVO exist on kind of two separate sides of the industry in what we're doing. NAVA itself is going to be U.S. based only, primarily for U.S. based voice actors, whereas World Voices is an international organization. Okay. We're dealing with the side of the industry that includes a lot of union voice acting, a lot of union actors, and a lot of union contracts, as well as kind of looking into some emerging technology like synthetic and AI voices. So we complement what Wovo is doing on their side of the industry, and we're hoping to fill in some of the spaces that that they're not currently working on or advocating for.
So is NAVA going to be the rates police? Because that's what everybody always thinks Wovo is. And Wovo, I like every Wovo meeting, it's like, we're not the rates police.
No, I mean, I guess you can look at it as rates police, or can we help people find value in the work that they do? And we don't ever want to tell people what they should charge themselves. But for a lot of people who are in this industry who don't have any ballpark or any idea of what the value on their work is, I think, things like GVAA rate guide, looking at SAG-AFTRA scale rates, looking at Great for the Brain, looking at other resources can give you a value of what this job is worth. Yep. I think as artists, it's very hard for us to put value on ourselves as artists. And especially even as, as a solopreneur, what are we worth? But if we can see what this job is worth, then we can have a guide through that. We're going to discuss all of these different avenues. We support the GVAA rate guide for non-union rates, and we support SAG-AFTRA for union rates. And those things can give voice actors the ability to look and see what the value of this job is. And I think that's different than trying to put value on yourself. Because, a new voice actor, what do I charge? I haven't been doing this as long as somebody else, but the value of what you as an artist can bring to this has value that we can look at and see what that is. But I don't think we're going to be rates police. We hopefully will, if anything, can be rate lifeguards and keep the rates from sinking any further, which is, hopefully, which can be in the hands of voice actors, but a lot of times it's in the hands of production. If production just starts slowly chipping away at rates, at some point it becomes untenable to be a full-time voice actor. Yeah, for sure. So talk to us a little bit about the structure. I know that you are the founder. There is a board that is in place. Yep. How is it structured, and does membership have a say? Is it a vote? Is it just you stay informed with what's going on through a newsletter? Explain that side of it all. That's a really good question. You're actually the first person to ask that question, which is kind of interesting. So, we're a 501c3, and so we have to run under, in the United States, certain requirements for us to have a 4-member board, which is president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, okay. And then that becomes our main voting block that we have to get a vote on. From there, we added in, I wanted to bring in an advisory board of people who cover all the different parts of the industry, because I really wanted to make sure that we had as much coverage as possible in all of the parts of the industry. I work in a lot of this industry. Karin works in a lot of this industry. We have experience working with a lot of people, but we don't see everything. And I wanted to make sure that we could, as much as possible, advocate for maybe parts of this industry that aren't as heard as often, that aren't seen as often, and have those people so we could hear their concerns and bring that to the forefront. Currently, there is no, currently the way that we're structured, all of the voting takes place within the board and within the advisory board, and then through information on newsletters and various other things that would go out to the membership. There's a possibility at some point that membership could have a say in certain parts of what we do, but currently the structure is just the board and the advisory board in regards to votes. So it's not something that turns into like WovoCon, annual conferences, mini conferences, different things like that. It's really more of an oversight kind of. As far as the board is, WovoCon, those things are great. That's a great resource for the community to go to. I think there are a lot of great conventions out there already that are covering a lot of the big parts of the industry that need to be covered. I don't see any need for us to step into that realm at all. So I know there are 5 primary areas of NAVA, from what I've gathered from reading through the website. You've got education, training, advocacy, healthcare, the Pathways Initiative, the synthetic AI voices. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into each of those individually, just to get a better understanding of what your position is or what NAVA will be doing in those areas. I think the one that people are probably most excited about is the healthcare. So let's dive into that first. What does that look like? So healthcare is, we have spent the last 2 years trying to find some way to provide national healthcare for voice actors. We have gone through hundreds and hundreds of people turning us down, hundreds of companies turning us down. And if anybody's seen, about a year ago, we put out a call for a census. And over the last year or so, we've been gathering up names on this census who we could then take to our healthcare companies. And about 3 months ago, we ended up with 1,000 people on a census. And we started submitting out to different healthcare companies, and we had one company that came back to us with the opportunity of adding us to an existing national healthcare plan that is out there for freelancers. And that was based entirely on the census. And it's something that has not been done before. We honestly are all shocked that it is possible to do.
Yep.
And we have, these are major medical plans. They're all ACA compliant. If you're in the U.S., you'll be Obamacare compliant, so you will fulfill your tax requirements. And all 4 plans are zero deductible. And for somebody in the United States, we don't have universal health care. And a lot of times, if we do have health care, it's very minimal or it's extremely high deductibles or high premiums. This provides us access to that. And the only requirement is that you become a member of NAVA in order to access these healthcare plans.
That's, that in and of itself is an incredible thing right there. And I know that's going to be a huge thing for a lot of voice actors to have the ability to get that, because up until this point,
absolutely.
Either you got a day job, which a lot of voice actors hold on to day jobs just to keep healthcare, or I know like with some places you can get access to it if you join your local chamber of commerce, for example. That might be a way that you could get it. But to have a group policy like that is going to be a really huge thing. So that's an incredible accomplishment. So,
yeah, it's something, we had a team behind this that's, a insurance broker I've been working with is a friend of mine for 10 years, helped me get my insurance when I was teaching. I was a freelance teacher. I didn't have insurance. So he helped me about 10 years ago with that, and has helped us through this process with an entire team of people who really didn't take no for an answer and just kept going back and going back. And we were told from the beginning, you can't do this. It's not possible. It's impossible. You're going to fail. And I said, I'm okay failing, but I'm not going to not try. Right. We have to go out and make an effort at this and try. And I am more than happy if it comes down to it in November, we turn around and we say, sorry, all thousands of you who were on the census, we can't do it this year. We'll try it again next year. I was totally fine with that. But we did it and we pulled it off. And it is pretty mind-boggling still. I was kind of speechless after a while, So
it's an incredible accomplishment. And that is going to be that's potentially life-changing for a good percentage of people in the industry. And so,
absolutely, yeah.
I commend you and your team for what you've done to make that happen.
Thank you. Well, and I think one of the things you mentioned it earlier is a lot of people who stay in these jobs that they don't want to be working in because they need the health insurance. And this in our mind and in my mind, this gets you into that point where you can become a full-time voice actor, where you can be that bridge to the union if you want to be a union voice actor. If you're stuck, if you're spending, full-time working in a job you don't want to do, that puts your voice acting in a very part-time position, which means you're going to struggle at it. You're not going to be able to advance as quickly as you'd like to. You're maybe not going to be able to pursue the things you want to do because so much of you, we all know what it's like to work. I've worked my 10, 12-hour days and then tried to come home and do auditions and try and do the business of being a voice actor is just impossible to do. So if not impossible to do, it's just extremely difficult to do. And
yeah, for sure,
is soul sucking after a while. But if we can take that off people, if we can allow somebody to leave a job that they don't want to be in, that they don't want to do purely because of healthcare, even one person making that change, that to me is going to be a win.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is definitely going to be a huge part of this, and that's only the first of the 5 different areas that you're working on covering here. Yeah,
and for us, healthcare is one of the pillars, but it's certainly not the single most important thing that we do, and I don't think that it's it's going to be a part of what we do. But even if you don't need healthcare, there's a lot of people who are going to find benefit. We want to provide benefit in what we do with NAVA for the industry in general.
So let's talk about the VO advocacy side of things. We talked a little bit about rates and you kind of outlined what your position is on that, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. So what kind of things are you looking to work towards or accomplish on the advocacy side?
On the advocacy side, I personally have advocated for authenticity in casting for a long time. It's conversations that we've had in our workout groups here, in LA for years. It's something that voice actors of all different ethnicities have struggled with on how to approach and how to navigate this industry in a way that can support ourselves as voice actors, but also support those who to tell their authentic stories. And so we've put together a diversity, equity, inclusion board, which is a phenomenal board of people that I trust, who advocate for this in the industry. Currently, what we're doing is supporting groups like QueerVox, the African American Voice Actors Database, and the PGM list. As we grow and get into this, we're going to have webinars. We're going to have board meetings, consultations with our diversity board, and hopefully bring in this conversation to a larger part of the industry, including production and casting directors, creators, on how they can advocate for authenticity earlier in these projects,
Right.
and how they can navigate these things as we go further into the industry as it changes over the years. How can somebody, if you're presented with a role that you don't feel that you're fit for, and that there's a better person to tell that story, how can you, or when should you turn that role down, and
Right.
when should you advocate for somebody else? Or are there certain roles that we can take if we don't match the ethnicity or other underrepresented voices that are in the industry? And that's what we are advocating for as we go forward in this industry.
And so is that done through education? Is that done through information provided to casting directors, production houses? What?
Yeah, currently it's being done through us kind of reaching out to production and casting houses as NAVA themselves to try and bring people into this conversation and have this conversation.
Right on.
And along those same lines, being public advocates of these lists and saying, hey, look, you're casting for this type of person, this voice. There's a great database here for you to go, and you can find people who can tell these stories authentically. You can maybe step outside of these traditional avenues of casting and look at other phenomenal voice actors who are going to be able to tell this story from an authentic standpoint.
And my guess is that as the size of NAVA grows, it probably gets you a better seat at the table, so to speak, for people to actually listen and for your influence to make a difference, right? If you've got 10 members versus 1,000 members.
Right. Yeah, we're hoping so. I mean, we have a little over 250 members as of now in the last that we've gotten in the last 20 days.
That's amazing.
I'm just, I had high hopes for this, but I am just, every day I look at this, I'm just kind of speechless as far as the response. And it's people from all over the country, from all walks of the VO industry, from all different types of categories of groups, of all different genres of voice acting, that are just showing up. People, not that I don't know everybody, but a lot of people that I have never heard of, and I'm tracking down. I'm seeing their work and seeing some phenomenal voice actors that are just not on the radar in a lot of places.
Wow.
And it's great to see.
That when you say 20 days, that just blows my mind that it's like, but that just goes to show you that there was a very obvious need, right?
Yeah, there was a need for this. I think we saw this. We've seen it in our social media groups and in the Los Angeles groups over the years as we have grown and had these discussions, that it's it really was important, and it really was with all the stuff that other groups are doing, there still was a space for us to exist and live. That can live alongside the other groups that are out there now.
As we come to the end of 2022, one of the questions that a lot of us will be asking is, did we achieve our goals? When we start out a new year in January, we always have the best intentions. We always have these things that we say we're going to do, that we want to do, that we dream about doing. Sometimes we get there, and sometimes we don't. And December is a time for reflection. It's a time to look back on those goals and say, yes, these ones got achieved, or nope, I didn't quite make it on these ones, and here's why. But it's also the time to set the stage, because a new year is coming. If you didn't do the things that you wanted to do in your voiceover business this year, then you need to set yourself up so that you can do the things that you want to do in your voiceover business next year. And one thing I think all of us want to do is experience growth. In order to experience growth, we need more opportunities. More leads equals more prospects. More prospects equals more clients. More clients equals more auditions. More auditions equals more bookings. More bookings equals more income. How do we get there? With marketing. VoiceOver Marketing Playbook is coming out again January 4th through the 13th, 2023. This is your step-by-step marketing program that is going to teach you how to find your own leads, build your own client base, and become the consistently working voice actor that you want to be. If you want to have a better year in 2023, if you want to experience growth in 2023, learning how to market is one of the things that is going to help get you there, and Playbook can and will help you do it. Again, it's coming out January 4th through the 13th, 2023, and details will be available at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. That's voiceovermarketingplaybook.com.
Now, back to our show.
So let's talk education and training. I'm guessing that this one probably lends itself a little bit on the advocacy side, just because a lot of what you talked about with advocacy is education and training.
Yeah.
Is this education and training on a voiceover side or on a voice buyer side, or is it both?
It's currently our it's going to be both. Our initial education webinars are going to be on contracts, specifically looking at SAG-AFTRA contracts and how they relate to voice actors. And we're going to start. We have Zeke Alton, who is a phenomenal resource as a voice actor, but also as a contract specialist who knows the understanding of contracts. Of looking at contract, we're going to start with contract 101 of just as a voice actor, regardless of whether you're a union or non-union voice actor, what does this contract mean when you get this? Because there are ramifications for this, and this kind of leads into our synthetic AI voices. But, are you giving away the rights to your voice in perpetuity? Are you giving away the rights to somebody to synthesize and reproduce your voice in perpetuity down the road? Are you creating conflicts in this contract because there's a transformative clause, or there are other clauses in this contract that are going to affect you down the road that you just don't understand what they mean? So that's our original education is going to be that. That's what we're looking at primarily. And then going into bringing in some legal, a lawyer to talk to us about NDAs and what do these things in an NDA actually mean? What are all these terms that we all, as voice actors, just gloss over and go, well, it's in there. I just got to sign it. What does it mean?
My agent says sign it. I'm just going to sign it.
Exactly. And as business owners, it's one thing when, it's different if you're a voice actor. It's kind of different if you're a voice actor, but if we're also business owners.
Yeah.
And these ramifications these contracts have ramifications on ourselves as a voice actor, as a talent, but also potentially on our business as a business owner. And for us to understand those things, it's really important that we know what these contracts say and what they actually mean.
Yep.
So that's where our education and training is going to start. And then from there, we're going to have specific member only classes, donation classes, classes that are paid for by NAVA, for special guests to come in, and once a month we're going to have a special guest come in and do some kind of education, and that could be anything in the industry. There's so much of this industry that voice acting covers, and so much of business that voice acting covers that it's wide open to what we can provide for education.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you touched on it. Let's go there. The synthetic and AI voices. I mean,
yep.
The industry's gone through several disruptions, as I see it anyway. I
Yes.
mean, online casting was a disruption to the industry. It changed the way that jobs got awarded. And I think the home studio, to a degree, was a disruption to the industry.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think probably AI and synthetic voices is the next major disruption that we're going to go through. So what is NAVA doing on that side?
Well, and we are going through it right now. We're seeing it, I touched on a few terms. We're seeing these things in our contracts that are even in union contracts that are referring to synthesized and AI voices that we just don't know what they mean. And they're just being put in the contract and we're signing it. We had, it's actually kind of interesting. Our synthetic AI voices, that was one of our main original pillars that we had talked about a couple of years ago when we first started NAVA. And we were going to put together a synthetic AI committee. Along the same lines, in the last couple of years, a group called the Vocal Variants has formed, which is specifically addressing this synthetic and AI voice in the industry. And that's Yuri Lowenthal, Cissy Jones, Courtney Taylor, JP Karliak, myself, Karin Gilfrey, Zeke Alton, Andy Danish. Half of the members are also board members of NAVA. So what we've done is that we've brought in Vocal Variants to be our synthetic advisors. And they've started by putting out an open letter to the voiceover industry, talking about read your contracts, look for these certain terms. And on this side of things, working with Vocal Variants is reaching out to these production companies, reaching out to Sony and other companies and finding out, if they're using AI and synthetic voices in what capacity.
Yep.
And how are they using these things? And what does that mean for the voice actor whose voice has been synthesized? And looking potentially, hopefully, at somewhere supporting either SAG-AFTRA's contracts or finding some other entity that's going to come forward and create some kind of industry template for voice actors in the synthetic AI world and support that. We are an association. We are not a union. We are not in the capacity or the place of being able to negotiate rates or create collective bargaining agreements. But we will support initiatives in great places that are able to bring these things forward. And, synthetic AI voices, it's going to hit a lot of places. You're going to hit, IVR. You're going to hit, NPC player characters in video games. You're going to hit, non-industrial training videos, any of these things that have lots of massive content. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Is there I'm of the personal opinion, and I come out of music. I was playing music in the 90s when Napster exploded, when the music industry just got decimated because people refused to look at what the ramifications, or believed that something digital could take the place of something analog. It can, it will, and it is.
Yep.
And that's where we are right now. And there is, there is definitely a place for a synthetic AI voice. Karin uses this example all the time, is if you wanted to narrate the New York Times every single night, no, a human being couldn't physically narrate top to bottom the New York Times.
Yep.
But I'd be more than happy to license my voice, and you just synthesize my voice, and you could, every morning, I read to you the New York Times.
Yep.
You license the usage of that. I know how it's being used. I know where my data is being used. I have the security and control over my voice, and I get compensated for usage the same way that you would in any other usage of your voice.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the biggest part of this. And I mean, I've been talking about AI for a little while, and I had a conversation with David Toback from GVAA about this on the podcast once before, and I think this is coming whether we like it or not.
It's here. It's here.
Yeah. And so our choices are to take to social media and, with our pitchforks raised and protest it, or we accept that it's here and we try to be a part of the conversation so that we can shape what it ultimately looks like.
Absolutely.
Because I think if we stick our heads in the sand and try to make it go away, that is not going to work, and we're going to get left behind. And so as an industry,
absolutely,
it's nice to know that there are groups like NAVA that are out there that are going to have those conversations and speak on behalf, because, I mean, you know what? I've joked before that I'm counting on this being part of my retirement one day. I have my AI voice, and I'm thinking one day that's just going to be, maybe it's 10 or 15 years down the road, but that just becomes a passive income stream for me, because it does exactly like you said, narrate the New York Times or whatever, right?
Exactly.
But if we're going to get there, then as a VO industry, we can't run from the conversation. We have to be a part of the conversation. So it's really nice to know you're doing that.
We have to be an equal part of the conversation as well, because our voice is essentially, we are literally the voice of this product or whatever it's going to be, right? And you this came to a head obviously about a year ago with Bev Standing and the TikTok, her TikTok issue that came through, and that's exactly what we're looking at here. How do we track our voice? If a lot of people are on pay to plays. If you send off a file on a pay to play, do we know what happens to it? We don't. Is there a way to track that? Is that voice going to be synthesized? Is there somewhere down the line, that we're going to find ourselves hearing something that goes, wow, that sounds like my voice, but I never authorized that. Well, it can't be my voice. I never did that. I never did that job. Could be your voice. The technology is changing so quickly. You're down to, you needed hours and hours and days worth of data. Now you need hours of data, 3 hours or whatever it is, to make a fully synthesized voice. That's going to change to being, we just need 15 words out of somebody, and you just go to YouTube and you strip 15 words out of that, or you go to a pay to play, you pull somebody's demo off their website and you can make a fully functional, synthetic voice out of that. We're not there yet, but, this technology is going to be there. Right.
That's what I think about. Like anybody with a YouTube channel, a podcast, that's got a lot of audio that's out there already.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be too hard for somebody to take that and create something. So it's
already being done. There's no doubt that's being done. There's no doubt that, that YouTube is parsing that data and taking that data of all the voices uploaded to YouTube and creating synthetic voices from that data. I'm sure it's happening.
Yep.
I'm sure it's in the contract. It's probably in the terms of service when you sign up for YouTube that's what you're giving permission to do. So because
we all read those,
right, exactly,
top to bottom, start to finish before we put the little check mark in the box.
And, and you don't need to read all of that, but if we know what to look for in those terms of service or in those contracts, we can search for these specific phrases and say, okay, great, I want to make sure this phrase or this term is not in this.
Yep.
And we're seeing that, happening in SAG-AFTRA contracts. There are amendments being made to certain contracts that are changing. That if you don't read it, you're giving over certain rights that you wouldn't normally expect to give up.
We've already gone through that with one particular casting site that had some, lengthy reach in the terms of use of their for people that wanted to be a member of the site. And so it's true. It's things that we've got to watch out for.
Yeah.
So then the final primary area for NAVA is Pathways Initiative. What is Pathways Initiative?
This is my favorite one. This is what I'm most excited about. So this is when you start as a voice actor, there are multiple ways that you can go in this industry between becoming a beginning voice actor and a professional working voice actor. And that could be going in the union. It could be staying non-union. It could be going FICOR. It could be working non-jurisdictional. It could be converting work. All of those things have ramifications on your career as you go forward.
Right.
And so what we've put together are these different pathways, a pathways committee. And that says, great, what I really want to do as a voice actor is my goal is to join the union. Great, well, let's meet with one of us, become a member. You can get a direct consult with somebody on the board and one of our pathway committee members. And we can talk to you about what does it mean as a voice actor to go completely union. If you want to be SAG-AFTRA, that means you turn down these types of jobs. It means you can't take this work. That means you work under these certain parameters.
Right.
If you want to say non-union, there are certain ramifications of being a non-union actor. It means you can do these things and you can't do these things. You don't have health care. You don't have pension. You don't have other insurance. You don't have retirement plans that could be in place. If you want to go FICOR, what does that mean? What's the very legitimate, neutral, legal answer to what going FICOR means? We'll help guide people in that direction. And this concept of being able to work non-jurisdictional or convert work. You can be a union member and take non-union work that then can be converted to union jobs and still stay in compliance with global rule number 1.
That is going to be a big thing because, I mean, let's be honest. Anybody with an internet connection and a social media account can position themselves as an expert online and sell their coaching services or whatever to voice actors now.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to know who you can trust, and it's hard to know where you're going to get good information from. And some of those decisions that you're talking about, deciding what that journey is going to look like for you, I mean, that's career-altering stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I get why you're excited about that initiative, because now that I understand it, I'm like, that's genius.
Yeah. And it's something I wish I had when I started, because you just kind of go, okay, well, of course, what your goal is to be in the union. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean when you join the union? And if you're outside of the United States, what does that mean? If you're in the United States, what does that mean? If most of your work is industrial, non-broadcast, do you have to give up all that work or not? A lot of people go, God, I'm not going to go union because I don't want to give up all my work. Well, sometimes you don't. And to know that and to be able to say, great, you know what, I could join the union and keep this work over here, or I'm in a right to work state. Therefore, my choices and what I'm going to do are going to change versus whether I'm in New York or California or different other states that you're in. But to me, that to me is kind of like the sleeper initiative that I think is going to be the most exciting and for me potentially the most beneficial for a lot of people as they're getting into this industry or progressing through this industry and being presented with these issues of one day you're like, oh great, congratulations, you booked a job, and now that's your third job, so now you're a must join. So if you take this job, you got to join the union, which means that's going to trickle down to everything else that you've done in your career up to that point. Right? And what does that mean? Can I afford to do that at this joint? Is the job going to make enough for me to afford to pay my dues? If I do join that, now all of a sudden, am I limited on what I can audition for? Am I limited on what the jobs I can take? And those have, very immediate real world implications. You join the union, and all of a sudden you're under global rule number 1, and you have to turn down work, turn down auditions, potentially, but not always. And it's not clear cut, black and white. It's not this or this. It's a very much of a gray area, and voiceover exists even within the union in a very gray area. That so much of the work that's union treats voiceover differently or has different rules for voiceover depending on where it fits in this project. And that's hard. And if you're not a SAG-AFTRA member, it's very hard to get these answers to give you a informed decision as you go forward.
So with this Pathways initiative, you said that this is something that's going to be available to members. Is this available to members with your membership fee, or is this available to members for an additional charge? Or
this is available with the members. So the information will be available to everybody. If you go to the site, we'll have information on what these mean. Once you join NAVA and become a member, you'll have access to directly reaching out to one of our committee members and speaking to them and consulting with them. That's part of the dues. Part of what you do. We're trying currently everything provided under the member services, member benefits, as far as classes or anything, is all going to be paid for out of the membership dues. We do have other benefits. We partner with other groups that are providing discounts. Yep. And those will be, you pay for those and get discounts on those services.
Okay. So you mentioned his name early in the interview. Many voice actors will recognize the name Brad Venable, but there are some who don't know Brad and don't know his story.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Brad Venable Fund and why is this something that NAVA has chosen to support and be a part of?
Yeah. So the Brad Venable Fund, Brad was, he was a voice actor. He was a business partner of mine, a good friend of mine, and passed away in 2021, in January of 2021. unexpectedly. I had texted him at 3:00 and he passed away at around 7:30. He and I were talking earlier. We were on a Zoom call the day before, planning out our entire year. He and I were he had founded the VoiceOver Weekly Workout with me. And prior to that, going all the way back in 2015, I have the Gardner Street Workout Group here in Los Angeles, and I was just the beginning of my voiceover career. I had started back into voiceover in about 6 or 8 months earlier, and decided that after 8 months I was going to be a full-time voice actor and I could quit all my other jobs. And I did. And September 1st of 2015, I couldn't pay rent. I was unable to pay rent. I couldn't pay my bills, and I had a workout group that night. The workout group paid my rent for me.
Wow.
And out of that, once I was able to pay rent again and pay the bills again, we decided to take that money, instead of giving it back to the group, we put it into a community fund. Mm-hmm. So starting in 2015, we've been building up this community fund for Gardner Street here in Los Angeles. And, people needed $50 here, or $100 here, or needed to pay their bills, or they couldn't pay a phone bill, or they couldn't do something. We've been providing that to people. And as COVID hit, this grew even bigger. And we started providing this to members of our group. So, when Brad passed away, we did a substantial fundraiser for his wife Katie, and raised about $60,000 or $80,000 to help with funeral services, to help with transportation. Getting Brad back to Oklahoma, so he could be with his family in their plot. And a lot of people just stepped forward and decided, and just donated to this cause. And so we renamed the Gardner Street group, the Gardner Street Fund. We named it the Brad Venable Fund after that, and went forward in his name. And we have been giving, tens of thousands of dollars in and out of my personal account to handle this fund. So that was kind of the impetus to becoming a 501c3, so that we could get this into a separate corporation for business purposes. But last year we gave out a substantial amount of money to people, a few $100s here and there to help pay for the bills, to get, especially, for a lot of people, we all know as voice actors, $200 or $100 is enough for us to get through those next 2 or 3 days or a week sometimes, right? To that next job that comes in, a client, oh, sorry, we were going to pay today, but it's going to come in, that check's going to be sent to you next week. Sometimes it's that, that $100 or $200 is enough to get us by. And 99% of the people who have received the funds have turned right around and back and donated back to the fund. Right on. Which has been great. And last year we sent 3 people to VO Atlanta. We did a full scholarship, the Brad Venable Scholarship to VO Atlanta, where we sent 3 people, full airfare, hotel, spending money, tickets, everything for the entire duration of that. And so we want to do this on a broader level. Yep. And so we are doing the Brad Venable Fund on a much bigger level. And starting last night or today, we're launching a national fundraiser for Brad Venable under the Do Good Points initiative called Creators for Good. And we're going to be launching for the next 20 days fundraisers with celebrity voice actors and Twitch streams and streamers talking about the Brad Venable Fund. And with the goal to raise a substantial amount of money to provide for the voiceover community and NAVA members specifically for, over the course of the next year.
That's amazing. That's a legacy right there. And
that's Brad was, somebody mentioned, Brad would have been, Brad would be vice president of NAVA if he were around. He would be my partner. This is something he believed in. And actually it was Karin who said that it would have been Brad. Karin's our vice president, but said, Brad would have been that person in that place. This is something that he believed in and he would have supported. And his family supports the fund. They've given us a letter, a little bit about Brad on our website from his sister. His wife supports this. Katie has supported this throughout the time we've been doing it. And this, gets to give back to the community in Brad's name.
That's amazing.
And that's important. Yeah.
Brad was an absolutely incredible teacher, but I think the reason why he was such an incredible teacher was because he was so passionate about what he did, and so it made it easy for him to share that. Yep. And so
absolutely, he was, and he believed in education on all levels of this, regardless of union, and whether you're in the union or not union, you should have access to this education. You should have access to information. You should be able to build and grow your craft and become better at everything that you do, so that you can do something that you are this passionate about.
Right on. That's awesome. All right. Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground. Mm-hmm. What have I missed? Is there anything that people need to know or should know, or you'd like to shine a light on about NAVA that, here's your opportunity to to answer the question I didn't ask.
You have covered it all. I mean, I don't really know what else to cover. I mean, you have covered a lot of this. I mean, a lot of what we talked about today has not been asked before. So, I appreciate you asking these questions, because this is good for us to be able to talk about going forward.
So how do we join then?
It's great. Join. Go to NAVAvoices.org and click the Join NAVA button. It's in the upper right-hand corner. And we've tried to make, we have to have a barrier to entry, but we don't want to make it insurmountable. It's not based on how much you make. There's no earnings requirement. We are asking that you can show that you are a working voice actor in some capacity in this industry. I know a lot of voice actors who do this full time who are just training and not booking yet. But I consider those people to be working there. They are working full time in voiceover. So, a voiceover website, an IMDb page, online casting profile, agents, your name on an agent's website. Send us video of your work. If you have a lot of people, do work that's not publicly available yet, you can send us a video of that work. Online review of your work, or if that, if all else fails, you really don't, there's some people who do work that is not public and they can't share. Right. So, send us just a little bit of your resume. Let us know what you're doing. If you've been in the industry for a long time, that shows that you have been doing this. One thing we ask is, have you declared voiceover income on your taxes in the last 3 years? That's a great indicator of where, of where you are in the industry. Part of what we're doing, and part of the requirement with healthcare is that this needs to be a professional organization of people in the same industry. Right. And so we're trying to keep that into the voiceover industry. Our first year enrollment is $120 for the year, and that will get you access to all of the benefits, member benefits that we have on our site. Those benefits are actually currently, we realized this today, is that we have the list of benefits is actually only available to members. So we're putting together a list of benefits that are available to, so you can see what it is you're going to have access to when you get there. We've got Jordan Reynolds is giving a discount. We've got Real Voice LA, Halp Network is providing discounts. Right. Float Studios is providing discounts. We're working on getting various other organizations to partner with us and provide member-only discounts for NAVA members.
Okay. And just to clarify, this is a U.S.-based organization for U.S.-based voice actors.
It's open to everybody, but there are certain parts of this, such as the healthcare, that requires you to be based in the U.S., but everybody is welcome to join. You just may not have access to all of the benefits depending on your location. Okay. But we are open to everybody. Okay, that's good to know. So the website is NAVAvoices.org, NAVAvoices.org. I'll put that in the show notes so everybody can check that out as well. But Tim, this has been fantastic. I think that what you are creating is something that is very obviously needed. Thank you. And I think that's why you've had so many people that have signed up, and hopefully you get a whole bunch more after people find out about, listen to this interview and find out more about it. You're doing some really amazing things, and I'm excited to see how this evolves. Thank you. So are we. We've got, the response has just been phenomenal, and we thought there'd be, there'd be a little bit of excitement, but we're kind of pretty taken aback with how really genuinely excited people are by this and the potential of what we have going forward. So hopefully with, as we get more members, will kind of help guide us in what it is we're going to focus on, and make it something really beneficial for the community. That's our hope. Right on. So that's amazing. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, the website, NAVAvoices.org. Check that out. Sign up, get your membership, and be a part of something really cool that's going on here. Thank you. Well, according to Tim, we covered just about everything there was to cover in this interview. In fact, he said that I asked a lot of questions that he hasn't been asked from other organizations and other interview opportunities that he's had. So hopefully this interview does answer all the questions that you have about the National Association of Voice Actors. I think it sounds like an incredible association. I think they're doing some amazing things, and I think there's a lot of potential for even greater things to happen in the future. So make sure you check it out at NAVAvoices.org, and maybe it's time for you to click that Join NAVA button right there in the top right corner at NAVAvoices.org. I hope you found this episode helpful, and if you did, would you do me a favor and let me know? Post that you're listening, share it in your Instagram stories, and make sure you tag me at Mark Scott. I'd love to know that you're listening, that you're learning, and that you're enjoying. As always, thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.
The Everyday VOpreneur Podcast. Available everywhere fine podcasts are given away for free. Mostly, we think.
Having your voiceover demos easily playable and downloadable on your website is essential. The VoiceZam player lets you do that across any device and browser. There are also options for adding play buttons in your email signature, tracking your listens, and even putting videos in your demo player. Sign up now at voicezam.com/markscott and receive an instant $25 credit. For full details and to claim this offer, visit voicezam.com/markscott.
And scene.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOpreneur.com.